Constance just reminded me that it was Saturday morning cartoons, not Sunday school. I knew that. Anyway, it is Saturday morning cartoons, and it's a beautiful day. I just got back from Temple. Also, I am enjoying, I received in the mail, I guess day before yesterday, a book. People send me books, and I appreciate that. Sometimes I read them. And I started reading this one, and I'm enjoying it very much. It's by Marco Visconti, a wonderful author, magician, Thelemic. And it is a very, very interesting point of view, especially concerning the history and present situation of like worldwide Thelemic orders and the condition of Thelema in 2025. Okay. And so it's very interesting and very insightful and not completely flattering to a lot of people. I'm happy to say will probably go, oh, but it'll help you have another good, sound, intelligent point of view here. So I guess I'm plugging it for Marco. He's written a number of Thelemic and Crowley-based books and commentaries on the magic of Thelema. And I didn't expect that this would be anything other than that kind of quality. But it does bring to mind. I was listening for the phone machine there is talking to me from the other room. It caused me to think back when I was writing The Magic of Aleister Crowley. Today we are blessed, some say cursed, with an abundance of modern magic books and Thelemic organizations that function independently of the OTO. Okay. Now, my introduction to all of this was the OTO, and I was one of the early initiates of the revised OTO, and my initiators were Grady McMurtry, Phyllis Seckler, and Helen Parsons Smith. So that no matter how things develop, that's my family link to all of this stuff. So obviously, I'm sentimentally, nostalgically, and genetically linked through those people, and then a little bit to the side there with Israel Regardi, but that's another story. Today we're blessed. Some say cursed. Oh, I was going to say I was initiated back in 1975, so truly before the OTO actually got going as a going concern, and AA connections were just very private things. Today we're blessed, some say cursed, with an abundance of modern magic books and Thelemic organizations that function independently of the OTO. There are now many individuals doing the structured and private work of the AA. Yes, by some measure, we can say that magic has come a long way since Crowley's death in 1947. But while I'm justifiably proud of my small contribution to the late 20th century rebirth of interest in Aleister Crowley and spiritual awakening that is the magic of Thelema, my ability to quickly turn pages has not increased. Okay. It would be a serious mistake for me to rest on my laurels and spend my golden years preaching a crystallized gospel of the Aeon of Horus. Now, that observation I made there is delightfully dilated in works like this. Okay. Rest on my laurels, spending my golden years preaching a crystallized gospel of the Aeon of Horus. The Aeon of Horus is too dynamic to be crystallized. The Aeon of Horus is changing us and the world faster than any of us ever imagined. Back in 1993, when this first came out, Constance and I had already been busily facilitating the activities of one of the largest local OTO lodges in the world, and for over 15 years. So back in 93, we've already been doing that for 15 years. I was 45 years old and absolutely intoxicated by the magical teachings of Aleister Crowley. The material for the book, this book, has been coalesced from my notes and handouts from our weekly Magic and Theory and Practice class. I simply intended this book to serve as, quote, the book I wished I would have read when I first began to study the magic of Aleister Crowley. I have to keep reminding myself that I wrote this book 30 years ago, now 32 years ago. And 32 years is a long time, especially considering how dramatically fast the world is changing. I think it fair for you to ask if I would have written a different book today. My answer is simple. Oh, sure. I'm positive the book would be different. But I don't think it'd be significantly different. It would still serve as a handbook for some of Crowley's most important rituals and exercises. It would still contain the Book of the Law and important Libers. I'd still try to avoid too many personal speculations. And I would still try to give the reader the maximum opportunity to arrive at his or her own conclusion on important points. Actually, I think the book's held up pretty well over 32 years, and I've done nothing to tinker with this new edition's format or text. What has changed is the condition of human existence on this planet. The world has changed dramatically. The earth has changed dramatically. The consciousness of humanity and our fundamental perception of reality has changed dramatically. The way we see ourselves has changed dramatically. The way we love, the way we self-identify, the way we interact with one another, including how people study, learn, practice, and teach magic. This is not a bad thing, but it's something magicians must evolve with or be destroyed by. We must always keep in mind that Crowley was born into the steampunk world of the 19th century. As brilliant as he was, as vast as his spiritual revelation was, Crowley still had to project his magician's message upon a screen of collective human consciousness that was just barely emerging from the Middle Ages. In many fundamental ways, the world Crowley had to preach to hadn't significantly changed in 2,000 years. The world of today's magician has been changing exponentially day by day since 1904. All of us, magician and non-magician alike, are presently faced with the real prospect of human extinction, perhaps even in our lifetime. Our greed and reckless misuse of information technology has placed objective reality itself in very real jeopardy. This confusing madness is the new screen of collective consciousness upon which modern magicians are obliged to project the liberating light show of our evolving magic. So, and a good example of at least a new point of view are being shared, published, and discussed today. And it's one of the few bright spots I see in a otherwise confusing and very bleak prospect. Now, when I joined the OTO on November 15th, 1975, I asked Grady and Phyllis at dinner after my Minerval initiation, which both of them used as an opportunity to orient me, I guess. The meal is still part of the initiation, and so that's when I found out how small the OTO really was, and that there was about 6 people left, and that was where Grady turned me on to Robert Anton Wilson and the Illuminatus trilogy. That's where Grady shoved his copy of the Blue Equinox across the dining room table at me and said, "This is the OTO's programming manual." And this is where I discussed with Phyllis the nature of her relationship in the AA. And this is where Grady provided me with a single sheet of paper that simply said a letter from Carl Germer, or from Crowley to Carl Germer, when Germer asked him, what's the difference between the AA and the OTO? And this is what he said. In the mid-1940s, Carl Germer, a key administrative officer of the OTO, wrote Crowley asking for a definitive statement regarding the difference between AA and the OTO. The following is Crowley's reply. The difference between the AA and the OTO is very clear and simple. The AA is a sempiternal institution and entirely secret. There is no communication between its members. Theoretically, a member knows only the superior who introduced him and any person whom he himself has introduced. The order is run on purely spiritual lines. The object of membership is also entirely simple. The first objective is the knowledge and conversation of the holy guardian angel. The next objective, omitting consideration for the present of the 6 equals 5 and the 7 equals 4 degrees, is the crossing of the abyss and the attainment of the mastership of the temple. This is described very fully in Liber 4:18. Much less is written about the 5 equals 6 degree, the knowledge and conversation, because it is too secret and individual. It is impossible to lay down conditions or to describe the experiences involved in detail, because it is too secret and individual. I add with emphasis. The OTO has nothing to do with this, except that the Book of the Law and the Word of the Aeon are essential principles of membership. In all other respects, it stands by itself as a body similar to Freemasonry, but involving the acceptance of a social and economic system which is intended to put the world on its feet. There is also, of course, the secret of the 9th degree, which is, so to say, the weapon which they may use to further those purposes. Now, he wrote that September 16th, 1946. Here's something else I've added concerning the OTO in this section of the book. There's no doubt, this is me talking, there's no doubt that the series of dramatic rituals which comprise the OTO initiatory degrees can have a lasting and profound magical effect upon the candidate. It's also true that fellowship with other Thelemites can be rewarding and a satisfying experience. But, as I mentioned above in my comments about the AA, the real work is done by the individual. No one can reveal a real secret to you. No one can project enlightenment on you. If you expect affiliation with any organization is going to lighten your magical load, you're mistaken. And if you're waiting for a teacher who embodies perfection, or a group in which there are no jerks and assholes, I added the assholes just now. If you are waiting for a teacher who embodies perfection, or a group in which there are no jerks, you'll wait forever. And I think that's where I was going to end my sharing this morning. Let's just make sure I didn't have some other jewels. Okay. There is no law beyond do what thou wilt. The very term Thelemic organization seems to be an oxymoron. A collection of militant individualists all endeavoring to do their own will. This sounds like a recipe for chaos. In many instances, it is precisely that. Yet Crowley seemed inspired by the thought of a new Aeon society that could merge the precepts of complete personal liberty with the necessities of self-imposed spiritual disciplines. He experimented along various lines, but finally settled on 2 orders, which he hoped would flourish in the millennia following his death. And those were the AA and the OTO. Okay, that's that. And I'm continuing to enjoy and be edified, I guess. It's a Very good book, well worth your reading. But keep in mind, there are no perfect organizations, and that the real work is done by you. And you can flourish in most any environment and under most any circumstances. That's it for Saturday morning cartoons. Until tomorrow for Sunday school, continue to be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law. Love under will.